Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're peeling back the layers on something huge, something you probably think you know, but maybe don't entirely.
That's right. We're talking about the Han Chinese.
Exactly, one of the world's largest populations. And we're going deep into the genetics, looking at research that honestly, it reshapes the whole picture.
It really does. Modern genomics, ancient DNA.
Hmm.
It's like getting a completely new instruction manual for understanding human history, population history specifically. The level of detail is, well, it's astounding.
Absolutely. So that's our mission today. We've got this stack of studies, genomic research, historical analysis, population data, all focused on the Han Chinese, often seen as, just one massive group.
Right, a monolith almost.
Yeah, but we're going to trace the threads, uncover this really intricate genetic tapestry. We're talking ancient migrations, geography's huge impact, even what it means for health today.
It's a real genetic detective story we're diving into.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The common idea, the perception out there, Han Chinese. Over 91% of China's population. They're often seen as pretty much genetically uniform, right?
That's the prevailing notion, yeah. Or it has been.
But the science...
The science tells a very different story. Quite dramatically, actually. Forget uniformity. Researchers, using these incredibly detailed genome-wide studies, they found a clear, fine-scale genetic structure.
Fine scale meaning?
Meaning not one group, but six. Six distinct genetic subgroups within the Han Chinese.
Six. Okay, what are they?
You've got the Northwest Han, Northeast, Central, Southwest, Southeast, and South Coast Han, each with its own kind of genetic signature.
Wow, so straight away, that whole idea of one single group is just gone.
Pretty much blown out of the water by the data.
Yeah.
It shows deep biological differences shaped over millennia. It's amazing how assumptions about huge populations just crumble when you look closely at the genetics.
It really makes you think. 6 subgroups. And I guess geography must play a massive role in how those groups formed and stayed distinct.
Oh, absolutely crucial. The studies show this incredibly clear north-south population structure. It's like the geography itself. The rivers, the mountains, help draw these genetic lines over time.
So these divides aren't recent then, they're deeply embedded.
Very deep. We're talking remarkable genetic continuity. There's ancient DNA evidence going back like 3,000 years.
3,000 years?
Yeah, showing that the Northern Han's genetic structure, the basics of it, was already in place way back then. These aren't just fleeting patterns. These roots go back millennia.
Okay, that's already pretty mind-blowing. 3,000 years of continuity. But then you mentioned something even wilder before. Super grandfathers. What on earth is that?
Right. Okay, this is from one specific type of study looking at the Y chromosome, which tracks the male line. And it came up with this truly staggering finding.
Which is?
That around 40% of modern Chinese men share patrilineal descent. So descent through their father's line from just 3 men.
Three individuals.
3 super grandfathers, as the researchers term them, who lived about 6,000 years ago. Neolithic times.
Wait, 40% of over 1 billion people? Back to 3 guys 6,000 years ago. How is that even possible?
It points to these incredibly powerful waves of population expansion back then, maybe linked to the start of agriculture, Certain groups, certain lineages just exploded in numbers and spread rapidly.
So early farming advantages maybe led to these few male lines becoming incredibly dominant.
That's a strong hypothesis, yeah. It fundamentally changes how you think about ancestry in large populations.
Yeah.
Not this sort of diffuse cloud, but maybe these powerful concentrated lineages shaping vast swaths of history, like a massive ripple effect from just a few points in the past.
That is genuinely hard to wrap your head around. Okay, so we have the north-south divide, these ancient roots, the super grandfathers. But it's not just north-south, is it? You mentioned east-west, too.
Correct. It's more complex than a single axis. The genetic variations also run east to west. Specifically, Northern Han populations tend to show slightly more West Eurasian ancestry.
West Eurasian, so like European or Central Asian links.
Exactly. And the explanation. It seems strongly tied to historical migration and, famously, the Silk Road.
Ah, the Silk Road. Makes sense.
Yes. It wasn't just goods and ideas moving back and forth for centuries. It was people and genes. They mixed along those routes, leaving this subtle but detectable trace of West Eurasian ancestry, particularly in the north.
So history, trade, culture, it's literally written in the DNA.
Precisely. These ancient connections are woven right into the biological fabric.
Incredible. Okay, so we've mapped out this amazing historical and geographical journey through the genes. Let's bring it to the present. How does all this diversity affect people living now, especially, say, health?
That's where it gets really practical and potentially very important. There's major new research looking at diverse Han groups, particularly from the Central Plains.
The Central Plains,
Okay.
often called the cradle of Chinese civilization, right?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And in these populations, researchers found unique structural variations in their genomes.
Structural variation, so not just small changes, but bigger rearrangements.
Yeah, larger scale differences in how the DNA is organized. And these variations seem linked to adaptations over millennia, adaptations to local diet, climate, that sort of thing,
Mm.
particularly in genes involved in metabolism and immune response. It suggests these populations fine-tune their biology to their specific environment over a very long time,
So local adaptation is clearly visible in the genome.
very clearly, and it has real consequences. Another recent study looks specifically at northern populations influenced by that Silk Road mixing we talked about.
Okay.
It showed how their complex genetic background, their admixture, directly informs their susceptibility to certain diseases. Different groups might have different predispositions based on their unique genetic history.
Right. So understanding this diversity isn't just academic. It could be key for health.
Absolutely key. It opens the door to thinking about more region-specific health insights, maybe even truly personalized medicine down the line. It really drives home that a one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't work biologically, especially for a population this vast and internally diverse.
Which leads us to a really interesting point, maybe even a bit of a controversy or at least a tension.
Hmm.
Well, you've laid out all this evidence for incredible diversity. 6 distinct clusters, ancient roots, north-south, east-west differences, admixture. But culturally, politically, the idea of Han Chinese is often presented as much more unified, right?
That's the tension, exactly. You have this overwhelming scientific evidence for deep diversity, yet in many public narratives, Han identity gets simplified, sometimes even homogenized.
So the question becomes, is it fair or even accurate to treat the Han as a single genetic group when the science shows this much complexity?
It's a tough question. It forces us to think about how collective identity relates to biological reality, which is often far more intricate.
And are there downsides to that simplification if we ignore the internal diversity?
Well, you risk overlooking meaningful regional identities that are, as we've seen, literally reflected in the genes.
Yeah.
You might miss local adaptations, flatten out this incredibly rich heritage.
And practically like in medicine?
Practically, yeah. Ignoring subgroup differences could mean missing important health risks or protective factors prevalent in certain regions. It challenges the idea of a single-hand baseline for medical research or treatment. It's about balancing that broad identity with the scientific reality of variation.
What a deep dive this has been. We started with this idea of uniformity and ended up uncovering this incredibly rich, diverse, ancient genetic landscape.
It's quite a journey, isn't it?
Yeah. Just to recap, the 6 distinct genetic subgroups, that amazing 3,000-year continuity in the north, those Neolithic super-grandfathers.
And the Silk Road leaving its genetic signature.
Exactly. It's just fascinating.
And it's more than just facts. It's a powerful reminder, I think, of how dynamic human populations are, always moving, mixing, adapting. Our genes tell such complex stories.
They really do, which leaves us, and you listening, with something to really chew on. Okay, given everything we've heard, those unique genetic variations in the Central Plains linked to diet and immunity, the different disease susceptibilities across regions, should medicine, not just in China, but maybe everywhere with diverse populations, start thinking much more regionally? Do we need more region-specific approaches to be truly effective?
That's a huge question with massive implications.
And another one, thinking about those super grandfathers, how does finding such dominant male lineages, thousands of years ago, change how we understand the very concept of ancestry? How history gets passed down, not just for the Han, but for any large group. It kind of shakes up the family tree idea, doesn't it?
It definitely makes you think differently about deep history and how populations form and persist.
Lots to ponder there. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating deep dive. Keep asking questions. Stay curious. We'll catch you next time.